Uh, Good afternoon, my dear students of third semester BSc and BCA, BGS First Aid College, Kuvempu Nagar, Mysore. Welcome back to the language English class. Particularly, I would like to welcome to the novel Untouchable. See, my dear friends, already the novel has been explained by our head of the department, Professor L. Prakash, in detail. I am going to discuss with you the most important episode in the novel, that is the meeting of three friends, Chota, Ramcharan and Baka, at Ramcharan's sister's wedding ceremony, and their enjoyment and their discussions. Because this episode is very, very important. After the wedding ceremony of Ramcharan's sisters, these three boys went out to the nature in Bulandshahr town to share the sweets, varieties of sweets, and discuss themselves joyfully. Though Baka was well treated by the other two friends, Chota and Ramcharan, who hailed from the same lower caste, that means outcaste. But because of the morning incidents, several humiliation incidents, Baka seemed to be dull. And because of their friendship, the previous childhood friendship, Baka decided to attend the wedding ceremony of his friend's sister. So, Baka, he went to the wedding ceremony, he went to his friend's house, Ramcharan's house, and all the people, the guests, the invitees, all they were gathered and they were enjoying. The day was, the house was decorated with many colorful things, and so many people gathered there. All they were in completely colorful. Chota speaks. I shall call Ramcharan, said Chota, and quite unafraid and unashamed to face the crowd of singing washermen. He called Ramcharan, who sat dressed in a rather contradictory style of Eastern and Western habiliments, a large khaki topi on his small head, a Muslim shirt, clean and white but torn near the collar, and a pair of shorts on his thin, bare black legs. See, Ramcharan was completely neatly dressed, dressed in a rather contradictory style of Eastern and Western habiliments. A large khaki topi he had put on his small head, a large khaki topi, a Muslim shirt, clean and white but torn near the collar, torn near the collar, and a pair of shorts on his thin bare black legs. See, this fellow Chota, he tells that he shall call Ramcharan, and Ramcharan was neatly dressed. He was looking so beautiful. At first, Ramcharan was too absorbed, eating the laddus which his mother was distributing with the tankards of native wine for Chota's message to reach him. See, mother of Ramcharan, she was distributing the sweets for all the people in the house. Then luckily for his friends, as Ramcharan stood up to sprinkle the red color over the white cloths of the crowd through a crude spray made out of a tin can, the ceremonial little mischief maker was lifted amid the happy cries and shouts of hilarious laughter of the white-clad men, now spotted profusely with scarlet and thrown out. Ramcharan, he was sprinkling some kind of red color over the white cloths of the crowd gathered in the function, and his mother was distributing the sweets. In the meantime, Baka entered. He stood at the doorstep of Ramcharan's house. Come, he greeted Chota and Baka. Chota and Baka, both of them went to the house of Ramcharan. As soon as they stood at the Ramcharan's doorstep, they were greeted by Ramcharan. Come, he greeted. Ramcharan greeted Chota and Baka. Come, blinking his lashless eyes, and ran ahead. Obey, brother-in-law, give us some of the sweets, said Chota. Immediately, Chota asked Ramcharan, by addressing brother-in-law, give and obey. Brother-in-law, give us some sweets, some of the sweets. He asked Chota asked Ramcharan to give some sweets. Ramcharan had not forgotten to fill the pockets of his shorts and his large silk handkerchief, stolen from the laundry bag of some rich merchant, with sugar plums. Ramcharan immediately, he had not forgotten to fill up the pockets of his shorts. Immediately he filled his pockets of his shorts with a variety of sweets. His large silk he filled both in his pockets of his shirts as well as large silk handkerchief, and he stolen from the laundry bag of some rich merchant with sugar plums. Keep quiet for a while, said Ramcharan, suddenly turning back to see if his mother was aware of the direction he was going to take. See, Ramcharan, he asked his friends, he told his friends, both Baka and Chota, to keep quiet. Then he told them that he would go immediately and fill his pockets with variety of sweets, and also he would get more sweets in handkerchief, which was stolen from the laundry bag of some rich merchant. And he was afraid of his mother, if his mother watched that they were taking away the sweets without noticing to her mother, he wanted to get the sweets. So that's why he told them to keep quiet. She was immediately, when the noise of the children heard, the mother of washerwoman, the mother of Ramcharan, who belongs to the washerman family, the woman, she immediately cried, "Oh, illegally begotten!" She cried. At her son and his friends. "Oh, illegally begotten!" came her shrill voice, audible above all the other noises. "Are you running away to play with that dirty sweeper and leather worker on the very day of your sister's marriage?" See, when the mother of Ramcharan, she notices that her son Ramcharan is going out of the home to play with the son of a sweeper, that is Baka, and the son of leathers worker, that is Chota. She is abusing and scolding and expressing her remark about her son's attitude. She does not like her son to move away with his friends. "Are you running away to play with that dirty sweeper and leather worker on the very day of your sister's marriage? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, little dog." She inhumanly abused her son Ramcharan, who is ready to go out with his friends, taking away some sweets. And immediately he replied, when he heard that, When he heard his mother was abusing him, immediately he replied, he retorted at her, "Shut up, bitch," replied Ramcharan, as he was his wont. For he had been hardened into an impudent, obstinate young rascal by the persistency of his mother's abuse. See, since from the childhood it has become common for him to get abuse from his mother, and also it is quite common, especially for the low caste people, that even the children at their young age they used to abuse back at their parents. And with Chota at his heels and Baka following clumsily behind, he led the way towards the heath which sloped gently towards the north of the outcast colony. See, all the three boys, Ramcharan, Chota, Baka, by taking the sweets, they ran out of the home and they moved towards the north of the outcast colony. "Give us some of those sugar plums, brother-in-law," insisted Chota, greedy and gay. See, Chota, he became very greedy and gay. Being greedy and gay, he asked his friend Ramcharan to give them some of those sugar plums and other sweets. "I have waited for an hour for you outside your noisy house." He was telling his friend Ramcharan that they had been waiting to get the sweets outside his house. He's outside his noisy house. Noisy house means because the house, there was a function in the house of Ramcharan. It was the function of his sister's marriage ceremony, and all the invitees, guests were gathered. Completely there was a noisy and festive activities were going on. So he was telling his friend Ramcharan to give them sweets because they had been waiting outside their noisy house since 1 hour. "You shall have some as soon as we get to the hills." Ramcharan replied to Chota that they would get some sweets as soon as they get to the hill in the middle of the nature. Assured Ramcharan, "You shall have some sweets as soon as we get to the hill," assured Ramcharan. "I have brought them for you and Baka, not for anyone else." And also he assured Chota that he had brought sweets, sugar plums and other sweets for Chota as well as Baka, not for anyone else. "Now let us run, for my mother might come after me." And he carried himself with the assurance of one who has suddenly come into power. Chota, at least, if not Baka, paid him the homage which he expected as his due because he had a dozen sugar plums in his possession. Ramcharan, he possessed dozen sugar plums in his pocket, and also all of a sudden he got a power and began to run towards the hill which was situated in the north direction of outcast colony. "Come, O elephant," see, Chota, Ramcharan, first he started to run so fast towards the hill, and Chota began to follow him, but Baka, when he was moving slowly, because of his heart was filled with the pain and agony, the effect his heart was filled with the pain or agony due to the morning incidents. So he was moving so slowly, he was so upset, he was so sad. So that is by looking at Baka's slow movement, Ramcharan told him to come, "O elephant." He rebuked Baka for his coldness. "Show your teeth and lift your legs. You shall have some sweets soon." So immediately Ramcharan told Baka to go with them quickly and he will have soon some sweets. Baka dismissed the impudence of his joke with a grunt and followed quietly. He was feeling quite detached from the human world, bathed in a sort of unadulterated melancholy. Baka dismissed the impudence of jokes. See, by joyfully joking by joyfully he made a joke. He called him elephant. Oh, elephant. See, because of his physical body. By noticing the physical structure, bodily structure of Baka, Ramcharan told him, asked him, and addressed him, oh elephant, you come. And he rebuked. What the rebuke made by Ramcharan at Baka seemed to be a joke which makes everyone to laugh, but this fellow, he did not laugh at this joke because his heart was filled with sorrow, some kind of melancholy. So joke with a grunt and followed quietly. He was feeling quite detached. See, Baka, he had an expression of, he had a feeling of, an expression of feeling that a quite feeling detached from the human world. He was totally seemed to be an absent-minded, bathed in a sort of unadulterated melancholy. So all these three boys, they started to walk towards the hill in the nature. The grasses were stretching themselves towards him. The tall grass on the slopes of Bulandshahr hills, as they reached in the middle of the grasses were stretching themselves towards him. The tall grass on the slopes of Bulandshahr hills, and he had opened his heart to them. As soon as they reached the beautiful hill, which was situated in the middle of the nature, in that Bulandshahr town, immediately he had opened his heart to them. Particularly Baka, he had opened his heart to them, lifted by the cool breeze that wafted him away from the crowds, the ugliness and the noise of the outcast colony. He looked across at the swaying loveliness before him and the little hillocks over which it spread under a sunny sky, so transcendingly blue and beautiful that he stood dumb and motionless before it. Baka, when he reached with his friends the beautiful hill, he stood there with dumb and motionless before it because of the beauty of the nature. He completely involved and his heart was felt with the beauty of the nature. Some extent, he was standing just in front of the beauty of the nature before the hill, and he was looking at the beauty of the nature, and he stood there with dumb and motionless before it. He listened to the incoherent whistling of the shrubs. They were the voices he knew so well. He was glad, he was very happy that his friends were ahead of him. See, he was staying back, but his friends are moving ahead. He was following his friends on their back, and so friends were ahead of him, and that the thumb was not broken, for the curve of his soul seemed to bend over the heights, straining to silence any disruption of this solitude. It seemed to him he would be unhappy if he heard even one human voice. His inside seemed to know that he would not be soothed if there was the slightest obstruction between him and the outer world. See, Baka, he wanted to maintain silence. If there is a slight obstruction between him and the outer world, he cannot enjoy the beauty of the nature. It did not even occur to him to ask why he had come here. He was just swamped by the merest sight of the open fields that spread before him. As he rambled along, however, he felt he wanted an adventure in friendship to humanize the solitary excursion. But he did not want to call Ramcharan or Chota. See, he was enjoying the beauty of the nature alone without getting any outward disturbance. And so that's why he does not like to call his friends, Ramcharan, either Ramcharan or Chota, he fell back to a memory of the adventures he had here in his childhood. As he was passing through the middle of the nature, as he is moving towards the hill alone, his mind went into the flashback to recall how he had spent his childhood days in the beauty of that nature. He had here in his childhood, he remembered the time in his early days when he used to come to the heath with all the other boys to fight battles for the imaginary fort they had built by fixing a flag on the top of the hill. Baka, he began to recollect all his childhood memories. When he was a child, how he used to come to that place with all his childhood friends, how he went up to the top of the hill and they played. How he went up to the top of the hill with other boys to fight battles for the imaginary fort. They built imaginary fort themselves and they played the play of battles or fight by fixing a flag on the top of the hill. The bamboo boughs with which they flung arrows at each other came before him. See how they played the play of battle by making the arrow and bow with the bamboo sticks and hitting each other, flung arrows at each other came before him, and the imitation toy pistols with their sparks. How enthusiastic all the boys used to feel about him. Then they had made him their journal. He recalled with pride the pitched battle they had fought against the boys of the 28th Six and won. They were helter-skelter battles, not quite like the organized maneuvers of the regiments fought with guns, but then he said to himself, they were the games played in childhood. See, Baka, he recalled all his childhood memories and plays which he played with his friends. All those games played in childhood. I would not play those games now. So now he is realizing that he could not play such games now at present. I can hardly spare time to play hockey. Now he can only spend the time to play hockey with his friends, but he cannot play such natural plays in the nature with my father shouting at me all the time. See, at present he can play only the hockey, but that too his father does not like him to go out with his friends and play the hockey. Sometimes by hoodwinking his father, he used to go with his friends and play the hockey. He felt lonely thinking such thoughts. See, he was thinking alone and his mind filled with such thoughts. He switched his mind onto the landscape in that vague, groping manner in which his mind always felt its way across things. Suddenly, when his mind was recollecting all these past memories, suddenly once again his mind attracted by the beauty of the nature, and he began to look at the beautiful landscape in that vague, groping manner in which his mind always felt its way across things. On the slopes carpeted with grass, there flourished a wilderness of flowers. Deep slopes of the hill, carpeted with grass. See, all the grass, it was looking like a beautiful carpeted grass. There flourished a wilderness of flowers of which the shades changed at various intervals. There were the yellow buttercups which had seemed to Baka always like the mustard seed flowers of his village near Sailcoat. Then there were the long-stalked, single-headed daisies alternating with beds of purple and white. A pool of water in the long grass and ferns looked like large basin round which the silver birches bent down and smitten by the wind seemed to be drinking. Here every passer-by quenched his thirst from the water that came from a natural spring. Here, in this paragraph, the writer the novelist explains the beauty of the nature which was situated amidst, in the outskirts of Bulandshahr town, where the boys go and began to enjoy the nature and discuss themselves. See here, the place is very beautiful with a variety of flowers and waterfalls. A pool of water in the long grass and ferns looked like a large basin round which the silver birches bent down and smitten by the wind seemed to be drinking. Here, every passerby, if any passer passes through these beautiful meadows, beautiful nature, quenched his thirst from the water that came from a natural spring. Natural spring, the water which flows here, which it is natural spring. Descending to it with his nostrils full of fresh air and his heart as light as the spirits of the sparrows which chirped, Baka seemed nevertheless unaroused and unresponsive as a child turning aside from every wayside flower, for though he had the receptivity of the man who is willing to lend his senses to experience, he seemed to have no will in his numbed condition. Necessity had forced him to the contemplation of the charms of nature in search of fresh air. Heredity had furrowed no deep grooves in his soul where flowers could grow or grass abound. He could not reach out from the narrow confines of his soul to his yearnings. It was a discord. It was a discord between person and circumstance by which a lion like him lay enmeshed in a net, while many a common criminal wore a Raja's crown. His wealth of inner experience, however, was extraordinary. It was a kind of crude sense of the world in the rounds, such as the peasant has, or the Arab seaman who sails the seas in a small boat and casually determines his direction by the position of the sun, or like the beggar singer who recites an epic form door to door, but it wanted the force and vivacity of thought to transmute his vague sense into the superior instinct of the self-conscious man. As he sauntered along, a spark of some intuition suddenly set him ablaze. He was fired with a desire to burst out from the shadow of silence and obscurity in which he lay enshrouded. He rushed down the slope towards the trees that stood by the pool below him. The soft breeze came whispering up to him and made his blood tingle with its fresh coolness. The sun and the curve of the sky before him was being reflected from the sheen of the rippling water with a restlessness like the restlessness of the pain in Baka's soul. See, all this beauty of the nature eradicated all his tiresome attitudes and restlessness and the pain, sorrow, all the sorrowful feelings which he had in his mind, in Baka's soul. Whatever the sorrows, insults, humiliations and evil incidents which took place in that morning, he encountered that morning, he had forgotten all those things. All of a sudden, he had forgotten all those things. Being in the company of the nature, he descended through the meadows, rank with herbage. Before he had breathed more than a breath, he lay down on the bank of the pool. He came nearby the bank of the, he came at the pool and he lay down on the bank of the pool and immediately lent himself to the stillness about him, making not the slightest stir, even though the position in which he leaned back exposed his eyes uncomfortably to the sun. In a moment or two, his frame seemed to have sunk into insignificance, drowned, as it were, in a pit of silence, while the things on the sunny bank began to take life, each little stem of plant becoming a big leaf, distinct and important. The whole valley in that hill seemed to him suddenly aglow with life. See, as soon as Baka looked at the beauty of the nature in that valley and in that hill, immediately his mind felt some kind of a new fresh life, seemed to him suddenly aglow with life. But the rich and exuberant spaces about him seemed to have sucked all his energy away. He lay as if dead. You see, he lay down on the bank of the pool as if dead. His empty belly had provoked the subtle urgings of sleep into play. He was dozing. So he lay down there on the bank of the pool in the middle of the beauty of the nature, and he had a feeling of sleeping, some kind of sleeping. He was dozing. Dozing means he fell down. That means he lay down on the bank of the pool with senseless, some kind of senseless. He was pushed into the status of asleep. So when when his mind had lost and became absent-minded, completely filling with a variety of thoughts, feelings in the middle of the nature, completely himself he had forgotten. Chota, when he was pushed himself into the status of asleep, when he was dozing, Chota came and began to tickle his nose with a straw. Now these Chota and Ramcharan, they began to make fun of him. They wanted to play with him. So in order to make fun of him, just for fun, Chota, he took a tickle of a piece of straw and he put it into his nostrils. Chota came and began to tickle his nose. Tickle means put his nose. Put a small straw into the nostrils of his nose. That means the nose of Baka, who was sleeping there. Chota came and began to tickle his nose with a straw. With one violent sneeze, the sweeper lad here, Baka, when he was disturbed by Chota putting a small straw into his nostrils, immediately his breathing was troubled. Immediately he rose up and he stood up with a violent sneeze. And he got up and sat upright in the face of his friend's laughter. When he stood up, all of a sudden, by getting disturbance from his friends, all of a sudden when he stood up and violently sneezed, this attitude of Baka made these two friends to laugh at his. Upright in the face of his friend's laughter, Baka was no killjoy to be annoyed by so ordinary a practical joke and willingly let himself be made a fool of. But the incidents of the morning had cast a shadow over him, and there was something forced in his smile as against the spontaneous laughter of his companions. Baka was disturbed by his friend Chota when he puts a small straw into his nostrils, and all of a sudden he got up with a violent sneeze. By looking at this attitude of Baka, these two boys, they began to make fun of him and they take it for granted, and they were enjoying by troubling their friend Baka. And Baka, he was not in a position to smile or laugh at their fun, at their funny activity, at their funny, that is friendship. So they were having too much attachment due to the very close association, friendship with Baka, these two boys, they began to make fun of him. Morning had, see, because he did not smile, even he did not laugh. Baka did not smile, did not laugh, but these two boys were laughing because Baka did not laugh or did not smile because of the morning evil incidents troubled his mind severely. So that is the morning incident, the incidents of the morning had cast a shadow over him, and there was something forced in his smile as against the spontaneous laughter of his companions. Chota noticed this. Chota noticed this silentness of his friend Baka, and he saw that there was something tense about him, something accusing, as if Baka really disapproved of the joke which had been played on him. He asked, "What is the matter with you, brother-in-law?" He asked. "See, nothing," replied Baka. "You were running, I came slowly." When these two boys, Chota and Ramcharan, noticed that Baka, however, though they were making jokes, many jokes, however, though they were joyfully talking with Baka, however, though they were making fun of him, but he was not smiling, he was not laughing, but he remained silent. And by looking at all their friends' attitudes, Baka's attitudes, at last he asked, "What is the matter with you, brother-in-law?" Ramcharan asked Baka, "What's the matter? Why did he remain silent?" For that, Baka said that nothing. Baka replied, "You were running, I came slowly." See, nothing, no matter is serious, just you were running, you were moving so fast, but I am coming, I am following you very slowly. You didn't look for us, I was tired. You were moving ahead, I am coming and following you slowly, but you, the people, you did not look for us. You did not look for us. You did not look for us. That means you did not follow us immediately. Why didn't you come fast? Why didn't you follow us so fast? This is the question asked by two friends to Baka. For that, Baka said that I was tired. I wanted to sleep. See, I cannot move further. I cannot follow you so fast because I was tired. I wanted to sleep. I could not sleep very well last night. Last night, I had a lot of work. So due to the heavy work in the last night, I could not sleep very well. So that's why I was tired, I wanted to sleep. This was the reply given by Baka to the question raised by his friends. Because you will be a gentleman and won't put once again these two boys, Ramcharan and Chota, they began to poke him with some jokes. Because you will be a gentleman and won't put a quilt. Quilt means velvet, that is a warm bed cover, quilt. Over you, as your father says, joked Chota. Chota once again, he made another joke. You are tired, you did not sleep very well last night because you will be a gentleman and won't put a quilt over you as your father says. He learnt, joked Chota, he learnt from Raka all that happened to Baka at home. See, Chota, he began to talk the activities which took place at Baka's home, and he got all the information about the activities which took place at Baka's home from his brother Raka. So by getting the information from Raka, he was telling that you will be a gentleman and won't put a quilt over you as your father says. He learned from Raka all that happened to Baka at home, all the abuse that their father inflicted upon him. For this, at this point, Baka, he became little bit angry and he retorted playfully at Chota. "Shut up," retorted Baka playfully. "You are more of a gentleman than I am. You are more gentleman than I am. I am not a gentleman. You are more gentleman than I am. And look at this brother-in-law today. He is wearing a sahib's topi and shorts. See, look at Ramcharan, this brother-in-law. Today he is wearing a Sahib's topi and shorts that denotes the little bit richness and little bit who raised above the level of the hierarchy of their outcast. That is, he is wearing a Sahib's topi and shorts. See, pointing at the way how Ramcharan dressed himself, pointing at the dress code of Ramcharan, Baka told Chota that he was not a gentleman, and both of they are the gentlemen, because look at that brother-in-law, that means Ramcharan. Today he is wearing a Sahib's topi and shorts because that day was an important function, that is wedding ceremony of Ramcharan's sisters is going on. So what about those laddus? Baka continued, referring to Ramcharan. Now Baka asked Ramcharan, and he asked him, what about the laddus? He was not particularly keen to have them, although he would have liked to eat one. Here is your portion. See, don't worry, Baka, here is your portion. Here is your share of laddus, said Ramcharan, unfolding the handkerchief which he carried. See, he carried some laddus in the handkerchief. Immediately he unfolded, that means he opened the handkerchief of laddus, and he told Baka that there is his share of laddu. So here is your portion, said Ramcharan, unfolding the handkerchief which he carried. There were 3 sugar plums in it, all slightly broken. Throw me one, said Baka. And also Ramcharan told Baka that there were 3 sugar plums in it, along with laddus, all slightly broken. And Baka said, throw me one. Take it, said Ramcharan. But Baka hesitated and did not hold his hands out. Take it, why don't you take? Take it, Ramcharan grumbled. See, at this point, Baka, he did not stretch out his hands to receive the sweets, but still he was standing little distance ahead from his friend Ramcharan, and he is telling his friend Ramcharan to throw at him. Because he had, at this point, we come to know that Baka himself, he had some kind of inferiority complex in his mind about his caste. That is, he was the son of a sweeper. He should not touch others. That is the thing, that feeling he had in his mind. So if he goes near Ramcharan and get the sweets from his hand by touching him, that means he would pollute him. That is the opinion of Baka. So he does not like to pollute his friend Ramcharan. Ramcharan, he belongs to washerman's family, and Chota, he belongs to leather's family. So these two castes are upper caste within the outcasts. So here we see the exploitation within exploited. That is the thing. But Baka hesitated and did not hold his hands out. Take it. Why don't you take it? Ramcharan grumbled. No, give it to me. Throw it, Baka said. Both Ramcharan and Chota were surprised at this attitude of Baka. Both Ramcharan as well as Chota, they were surprised, because being close friends, why today this fellow is behaving like this? Why he is trying to be away from them? Because of the shadow of the morning incidents in the town. That experience of Baka made him to be away from these two boys, especially in the matter of receiving the sweets or touching them. So these two boys were very much surprised. They were very much surprised, and never before had they seen Baka behave like that. See, they had never seen ever before such behavior of Baka in their life. Baka had never behaved like this ever before in their life. Today, unfortunately, he is behaving like this. That means there must be something happened. Ramcharan was admitted to be of the higher caste among them. See, Ramcharan, he admitted the fact that he belongs to higher caste among other outcasts. That is, Ramcharan belongs to, that is, washerman's family. Because he was a washerman, Ramcharan was a washerman and he belongs to higher caste among the outcasts. He admit that fact. But Chota, the leather worker's son, came next in the hierarchy. See, in Indian caste hierarchical system, especially all the outcasts, they are considered lower caste people. But among the lower outcasts, the sweeper community people, the untouchables, so-called untouchables, they were placed at the bottom level. Just above them, leather workers, the leather workers, and above them, in the hierarchy, above them, the washermen were placed. This is the hierarchy. So, Ramcharan, being born in washerman family, he is admitting the fact that he belongs to the higher caste among the outcasts because he was a washerman. Chota, the leather worker's son, came next in the hierarchy, but Baka was of the third and lowest category. But among the trio, they had banished all thought of distinction except when the snobbery of caste feeling supplied the basis for putting on airs for a joke. See, but all these being friends, all these three boys, they have forgotten their caste. They have forgotten their traditions, caste practices and family things, family affairs, all these things, but they became very close friends. So they had banished all such barriers, caste barriers themselves, all thought of distinction except when the snobbery of caste feeling supplied the basis for putting on airs for a joke. They had eaten together. See, forgetting all those things, they eaten together. If not things in the preparation of which water had been used, at least dry things, this being in imitation of the line drawn by the Hindus between themselves and the Mohammedans and Christians. Sweets they had often shared together. They shared together sweets many times, and they had handled soda water bottles anyhow at all those formal hawkery matches. And those formal hockey matches they played with the boys. Teams of the various regiments in the Bulandshahr brigades. See, they played together, they shared sweets together, they eaten together all varieties of dishes, forgetting all the differentiation and discrimination of their caste and the family barriers and other things. Now, friends, let us stop here. We will continue in the next class. Thank you.